Hey you all, Farmer Jesse here today. I have another video for you from Jennie Love of Love and Fresh Flowers, but I'm actually in this one. Today's video is actually going to be all about vermicompost and our little vermicompost setups and how we take something like this, that's this small, and spread it out over an acre or 2 acres. Super fun video. Sorry, at times I'm a little out of focus. That's on me. But the content is awesome and Jennie looks amazing, so let's do it. All right, so we're going to talk vermicompost today.
Yeah. You
and I both love worms.
Yes.
And so maybe you could take us through your setup and I can talk a little bit about how it differs from ours.
Yeah, definitely. I am such a worm advocate fan because I think everybody on earth should have a worm bin at this point because it's such a great way to compost all our waste. And they're so easy. Like it's the easiest thing ever. It's like so much easier than regular compost, and you can do it in your house. You can do it in like in a bucket under the kitchen sink. But as a farm, I need a larger scale than that. But my scale, for the record, is very tiny. There are definitely farmers who have huge vermicomposting systems, but this is a very manageable starter size, so to speak. And I love this. So this is a product. This bin is called Can of Worms, and so you can buy this. I got mine through Uncle Jim's Worm Farm, but I'm sure you can get them lots of places. What I like about mine is it's just a 2-layer system. So on the top is where all the worm activity is happening. So you put your debris in there and the worms do their work. And then on the bottom, there's a second layer, and it's really heavy right now. So, but on the bottom there are castings, fresh castings, very easy to access. I don't have to screen them to be able to use them. So it makes it really handy and simple to put this to use. You can also have a nozzle on the bottom to be able to get the leachate out very easily, or to stop the leachate from dripping if you didn't want to have it drip out. So that's kind of how this bin works. Super simple to set up. I set it up in like, I don't know, 10 minutes. Yeah. So that's my system, and it produces enough of the fresh castings, which is really what I'm after, is fresh castings, to be able to make a tea or a tincture basically out of the worm castings, to be able to use that as a way to add biology to my farm. So we can talk about that then, but Jesse, what's your...
This is great because it's basically the same thing, but ours is square, or it's rectangle or square. Right. So but there's no difference. Really, you have, once the top one gets full, then you move that to the bottom. Oh, okay. And then basically the worms, because there's holes in the bottom of each of the containers, they just move up. And so once you've fully elevated your worms to the top bin, your bottom bin can be extracted. And then that way, if you want to use the castings themselves versus like a leachate, then you can actually just take that, sift it out, and then any worms that come with it, you just put them back in the bin. It's basically the same thing, and you don't. When you can do this on a really large scale. There's lots of versions of, like, you know, burying worms in certain climates as possible, like burying you know, big tracks that you that you fill with wood chips or whatever.
And you so they have lots of material.
Exactly, and then you can dig that up if you want to. But for us, and this is what we're going to talk about in a second, when you have a small version of that, you have to find ways to expand the microbes and everything, and all the hormones and everything that's in this. So what is your method for that?
So I put a lot of like kitchen scraps in there to start with. So that's kind of the primary base of it. But then I like to add lots of wood chips and small woody things, not big sticks or anything, but decomposing wood chips that already have mycelium on them. I'll add each time I add fresh material to it. I also like to put some leaf mold in there, so I'm just getting like a lot of diversity. At one point I put some LAB in because I was worried it was getting a little stinky, so that kind of helped a little bit. But yeah, I'm just trying to foster as much diversity in that space as possible, so I don't just rely on only kitchen scraps, though they do seem to prefer a lot of green material. How about you? What do you do? What do you feed your guys?
It's basically the same thing. I do put in compost, like we'll finish a compost, and then I'll run some of that through our vermicompost. And that just, you get really microbially rich. But are you trying to get microbially rich? I've been trying to kind of foster the fungal element of it a little bit, a la Nicole Masters. So I don't know whether that's something. It's a balance. I mean, I'm kind of, you know, the more the merrier, I think, for me. So, but I've also been doing a lot of wood chips based on the Nicole Masters approach. And I found that that's great. You wouldn't think that worms will go bonkers for wood chips.
They chew through them so fast. I got put in like equivalent of like 2 cups every other week or something, and they're like gone. They're not there anymore.
And the thing with the compost is a thermophilic compost, so you're getting out your diseases and your weed seeds and stuff, and then you're running that through your vermicompost, through your worm bin. And then it's not only increasing the available phosphorus and nitrogen and etc., but it's cleansing it a lot of any excess, any diseases that maybe have left over. Not any, but it's basically just helping. It's adding a little extra protection. So I like that insurance.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll start adding a little more compost to mine. I was relying more on the leaf mold and the wood chips for what I thought would do some of that, but it sounds like compost is a good addition.
Yeah, and a lot of, when you talk to a lot of vermicomposters, they talk about using the thermophilic process to do the weed seeds and any some of those diseases, and then that way when it gets to the worm bin, they're just enriching it.
Clean. Okay, gotcha.
So they're kind of the salt of the process.
Nice. That's good to know. And then do you use your fresh castings a lot, just like to spread out on your farm, or you're not making enough to do that? Like mine doesn't produce enough to really go crazy with spreading the actual castings around. So I use it more for extracts.
Right, and it's in a trench situation. I think that's where you'd be doing either large quantities. It's much harder in our scenario where we don't have a lot of extra waste to run through something like this. But no, for us, we're not using the castings that much. Okay. I will use them to enrich our soil mixes. Okay. So I'll add every time I do, we do a wheelbarrow. We'll do a wheelbarrow of soil blocks, and I'll sprinkle in maybe a cup. And really mix it in there and just kind of get it worked in there.
Yeah, we do that too.
But mostly, I'm doing things like teas and extracts. Okay. So. Same thing, which I think is the next thing we're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about that real quick to make it super easy for everybody. So I have a piece of really dirty cheesecloth here. We just use the same cheesecloth over and over again. Hopefully that's okay. I don't know. I never questioned whether the biology would get funky that way. But so a piece of cheesecloth, and basically all I do is, and I have a bucket of rainwater right next to me right now. So I lift this up and get to the worm castings, which for the record, this bin you can buy more trays to add to it as you go if you want. So I could just continue to stack these up. This is what I do to make my extracts, but I'm going to be excited to hear what you say, Jesse, about yours. So I'm just going to make sure I'm not drowning any worms, though for the record, they do survive this process. I just prefer not to torture them.
Yeah.
So I just make sure there's no worms in here that are going to get drowned in the process. You can see there's some eggshells that have lasted through the process with the worms. But so that was about, I don't know, I always say it's like, if I compress that, it'd be like golf ball size. About that much. I'm going to use that in a 5-gallon bucket of rainwater. So I just create a little pouch for that. Just make sure I got all the sides up. I've got this left here. Just give it a little twist so I don't lose any of the, normally I have a little zip tie or something too. And I'm just going to dunk it in and out of the water. I like to, like when I tell my crew how to make this, I tell them to dunk it in and out about 12 times. I like to call it more of a tincture than a tea, because when people think about tea, they think about compost tea where you have to put a bubbler in and you're going to feed it and stuff like that. This is really just like a quick cold extract, kind of like a tincture. So I'm dipping it up and down kind of like a tea bag, but this isn't tea. And I do that about 12 times, and then I make sure to squeeze the bag gently in case there's some worms in there still. I like to honor their lives and not do anything too mean. And then I start dunking again and do another 12 times. I'm not actually counting here, so but you get the idea. Just a good dunk in and out. What we're trying to do right now is wash off the autoinducer signals for quorum sensing. So that's a whole deep topic that we'll have to like go into in another video. But I'm trying to wash those chemical signals off of the biology in this bag, and then by squeezing it, I'm really making sure to get that out. So also biology does come with it too, but I'm really interested in making sure I get those signals. So then after 2 dunks and 2 squeezes, we'll just leave the bag sit in the bucket for a little while until we're ready to use it. But generally speaking, we're using it within about 15 minutes of the extraction process, just to make sure there's no way the oxygen leaves the water and then the biology would die. So that's my process. It's really, really simple and easy. It takes no time at all, and it is really great stuff. Then after we made the extract, the way we typically use it is for spraying on stuff. I like to spray it in the evening, in the twilight hours, onto the leaf surfaces, and that distributes the biology and the auto-inducers over the leaf surface, so they're there to help fight the good fight and create balance within the sort of microbial ecosystem on top of the leaf. And today, though, we're brewing it to spray onto my dahlia patch, which is going to bed for the winter. And this will help introduce good biology into the patch as we add leaves and put everything to bed. So that's my process, but I'm dying to hear what Jesse's process is.
Yeah, so our process is not a whole lot different. Okay. I'll do 2 different things. One, I'm maybe a little bit more aggressive in the pressing, okay. Which I hope there's no worms in there. Sometimes it does happen. But I've just found, and you do the pressing, and I think that's really important. And I've just found when I compare those things under the microscope, I just see such a significant difference in the microbial presence after squeezing. So that's like one reason that I do that. Important. The other thing that I'll do is, if I have time, I will do a tea overnight. Oh, okay. And then I will also do this.
Oh,
so basically it's like a double. I'm hedging my bets.
Okay. Do you feed the tea with anything?
A little bit of fish hydrolysate. Okay. Sometimes I'll pinch a little bit of kelp and stuff in there. Okay. Okay. Just it's a good. It's a good biostimulant. Okay. And you know, and then the next day I do like an extract version of it. I actually did a video of that for the channel.
Check it out. Yeah.
But that's kind of a simple, and then I'm playing a little bit more with adding some nutrients. Okay. I'm a little cautious because I've heard that if you add too much of a nutrient application, you can harm the microbial life. Right, right. So just a little bit at a time. I'm sort of playing with that idea too. I know that Graham Sade always says, like, put the biology behind the nutrients. So that's something I'm playing with a little bit more. But this is essentially it. I mean, this makes a really good extract. Easy. Yeah.
So under the microscope, when you've looked at it, I don't have a microscope, though I really should get one. Are you seeing like a diverse range of bacteria? Do you see any fungi? Like, what kind of stuff are you seeing pop up when you do the extract?
Both, a lot more bacteria when you do it that way. I would assume, but you also see a lot of microfauna that come through that way. Yeah. And with vermicast, you actually see ones that you don't always associate with positive things because it's such a moist environment. You get rotifers and some of the more swimming ones because they're used to the high moisture presence. Right. But they can be beneficial to your soil as well. I mean, it depends on if they proliferate. If you have a proliferation of something like rotifers, it can be a negative thing, but in general it is a positive thing to have that microbial that microfauna.
Right. But when we're using it as a spray, do you think they even survive that process then?
So spraying is, yes, I think generally speaking, and I've actually done some small anecdotal tests where anytime I'm making a mixture that I really want a high microbial presence in, I'm spraying it out of the nozzle before I take it under the microscope.
Oh, fantastic.
So that way you know that what's coming out is what you're getting, because if you just test the liquid in your sprayer, it may not be the same thing. And that pressure at the end of your nozzle makes the biggest difference. So I actually loosen up the pressure. So instead of having like a super fine mist is what you kind of think of with microbes, I do a little bit less because I don't want them to run into that pressure and die.
Good. That's good to know.
I don't know how much that affects it, but that's kind of my understanding.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I've thought about that. I mean, sometimes I use it as a soil drench too, in which case we're just using a watering can and just watering it around. But mostly I use it as a spray on the leaf. Yeah. So I'm always curious whether a lot dies in the process.
And I don't know, and it could depend on what microbes we're talking about, and maybe temperature plays a role and all of those things. So it may not be easy to test, but that's the best way is test it out of the nozzle.
Right. Yeah, that sounds like a brilliant plan. No, I think it's a really exciting application for farmers of all scales, but I think flower farmers haven't really, adopted this much yet. But I'm excited to help more flower farmers do it, because I think I use this a lot on like my dahlias and zinnias in the height of the summer. Things are prone to powdery mildew and other foliar diseases, and I noticed that I think this really helps a lot in terms of tipping the scale in that quorum sensing capacity to keep basically I consider them like two baseball teams, the good guys and the bad guys. And with taking the biology from the vermicast extract, I think I tip the scale towards the good guys, and then the bad guys don't really get started quite so much. So
yeah, that's good. And then you also mentioned you do like a leachate.
Well, the leachate comes out of the bottom of the bin. So I've done this in the past after reading, I think it was Nigel Palmer's book. I could be wrong, but where he was saying just for his worm bins, just pour water through the top. So in the past, I would just run rainwater. So I always use rainwater on all my stuff. I have a big rain barrel in the back that we use. But I would just gently pour water on here and wait for it to filter down through all of it, the worm castings and stuff. And then it would come out. I just have a black bucket that I would collect it in. That would be fresh extract. So what's in this bucket right now is actually just, leachate. I don't use this, but I would sort of use that process more than this like tincture tea bag system. So I'm assuming that biology is a little different, and I heard you say one time you thought it was better to do the tea bag, so I've been doing that since.
Yeah, my understanding, and I've not tested it, but what Rhonda Sherman told me in our interview was when you just collect like the leachate, just basic, and especially if you're accumulating it, there's no idea there's no knowing what's in there,
and it's basically fermenting as it sits there.
And there could be benefits to that, but it also there could be anaerobic organisms that would be bad. The negative ones, the ones that could be pathogenic or could be dangerous to humans or whatever. But that idea, I've heard a lot of people say running the water through the mix wouldn't be a whole lot different than this necessarily. As long as you're not collecting what's just stagnant in there. I don't see any, logically, obviously sense is not science, but that doesn't seem to me to be something that I would
Sometime
think would be
you should do, since you got your scope, you should try sort of all three and see what kind of things come out of it.
Just that would be interesting
like the diversity, or if there's like more, just generally more life in one or the other. But I do the leachate that comes out, like this sort of stagnant leachate, the natural ooze of the worm bin. I do put that on my compost pile, my sort of inoculated compost pile, because I figure it can't hurt to kind of add that biology to the compost pile, right? It's going to cycle through one way or the other.
And it's good too to point out that this size worm bin is basically treating your 3 acres.
This is plenty. As long as I'm doing just the extract process, and also it's plenty for our seed trays, so we use it in the seed trays. But this size bin is making a huge impact on my farm, so it doesn't take like a huge operation. You don't have to feel overwhelmed at all by I think too many people are intimidated by worm bins, and they're just sort of like, this seems hard, I can't do it.
Or it seems like it's not enough.
Or it seems like you got to invest in something really big, and you really don't. I would, for the record, like to invest in even more and more, because I think it's a great system. But this size is all I really need. So it's a great system. But with time, I plan on adding more. So
it's about quality and not necessarily quantity in this situation.
Oh, I have a question for you while we're still jamming about worms, because why not? It's fun. I had a question the other day on No Till Flowers Instagram feed from a follower who wanted to know if buying the bagged worm castings and making an extract, like making a tincture, would result in the same thing. And my gut, I don't have a microscope, so I don't know, but my gut said no.
Probably not, would be my guess. It just depends. I mean, now if you bought them from somebody who really specializes in the microbial side and cares about that, there's a lot of that product out there that's sitting in bags in warehouses, and then it's trucked across the country, and it's another bag in a warehouse. Sort of like
maybe it's 2 years old by the time you get it. You don't know. I mean,
and the moisture is a huge element of this. As soon as, especially with something like worms, that all of this is propagated in a very moist environment. if you take that moisture element out of it, or if you increase the moisture and you're not changing the moisture, it's a very different monster. Like you may not know, it may be a negative thing.
Right. And I think that even the good bacteria might still be in there, but it's cyst up, it's callous, gone into dormant state, and it's got its waxy coating around it, and it's not going to wake up. It's like dunking it in water for 15 minutes isn't going to wake it up enough. Yeah. Like it might still be there, but it's not active. It's not functioning.
Certainly. I mean, some of that stuff can go dormant for years and years. But,
so I think you really need fresh worm castings to take advantage of this vermicast extract process. But I do think dried, bought-in worm castings can be great if you want to like amend a bed, to apply more than you have.
Yeah, so. I think it's doubtful it would be negative, but ideally, because this is so easy, and not super expensive. I mean, the worms are probably what? I think this whole setup is probably less than $200, right?
Oh, it was way less than that. I think it was maybe less than $100. Okay. Like with that, I mean, shipping it did a little bit more for shipping, but it was really not much money.
And there's a lot of DIY on YouTube and stuff that you're basically taking 2 bends. Yeah. Or you're taking 2 totes and you're drilling holes in it, or 3 of them, and you're drilling holes in them, and that's
stacking them. We actually did that first. And for the record, I spent more on the DIY. I don't remember the exact price tags of different, but I spent more on the DIY, money-wise, and it cost a lot more, and it was a pain in the butt. So at the end, I was really glad to make the switch to a real bin, because it's been engineered. It's been engineered to be really easy, highly functional. And the other thing I will say about worm bins, because a lot of people get squeamish about them and they think like, ooh, worms, like, oh, it's gonna smell. Like, they don't smell, right? Like I've only ever once been like, that's a little something going on there, but they really with LAB and it went away. So they really don't smell that. Yeah. It's a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, you could keep them in your kitchen if you wanted to.
Yeah, or your basement. I moved mine into the barn today. We just did that right before this video. It usually sits outside of the barn in a sort of shady but sunny spot, just kind of like a nice, it's under a roof. And they love it back there, and they stay there all winter, all summer. But then in the winter, so we just went down into below freezing weather here. So they're coming inside, so they don't get too locked up, and hopefully the biology can keep moving a little bit. It's definitely going to slow down.
Yeah, I mean, temperature-wise, I think that worms like t-shirt weather.
It's they definitely, or tank top weather. I think from what I saw, they really love tank top weather. Maybe worms just want to be in tank tops all the time.
There we go. Yeah.
So but they're super easy, and I think everybody should have a worm bin.
I agree.
Yeah. Thanks.